Welcome to Bistory Media. The atmosphere in Lagos on February 30, 1976 was like every other day in the city. Since it was Valentine's Day Eve, lovers in the then Federal Capital Territory were finalizing plans on how to surprise their loved ones the next day. Little did anyone know that the day would turn out to be one of the most unforgettable days in our national history. General Murtala Mohammed, Nigeria's third military head of state, was assassinated on his 200th day in office. This video is a very full account of the regime of General Murtala Mohammed and the unsuccessful coup attempt that ultimately claimed his life. He was killed by Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka on February 13, 1976. Please stay tuned. Murtala Mohammed was born on November 8, 1938 in the city of Kano. His father, Mohammed Rizkua, was from the Fulani Ginawa clan and has a long history of Islamic jurisprudence. His mother, Uwani Rahamatu, was from the Kanuri and Fulani Jobawa clan. Mohammed began his education career at Chicken Gidan Elementary School, which was inside the Emir's palace. He then transferred to Gidan Makama Primary School in Kano, which was just outside the palace. In 1948, he then proceeded to Kano Middle School, now Rumfa College, Kano, before attending the famous government college, now Barewa College in Zaria, where he obtained his school certificate in 1957. At Barewa College, Mohammed was a member of the Cadet Corps and was captain of shooting in his final year. In 1957, he obtained a school leaving certificate and applied to join the Nigerian Army later in the year. Murtala Mohammed was recruited into the Nigerian Army in 1958. He spent short training stints in Nigeria and Ghana and then was trained as an officer cadet at Sandhurst Royal Military Academy in England. After his training, he was commissioned a second lieutenant in 1961 and assigned to the Nigerian Army Signals that same year. He later spent a short stint with the 3rd Brigade Signals Troop in Congo. In 1962, Mohammed was appointed ADC to M.A. Majokodumi, the federally appointed administrator of the Western region. In 1963, he became the officer in charge of the 1st Brigade Signal Troops in Kaduna, Nigeria. That same year, he traveled to the Royal Corps of Signals at the Catterick Garrison, England, for a course on advanced telecommunication techniques. On his return to Nigeria in 1964, he was promoted to Major and appointed officer commanding 1st Signal Squadron in Apapa, Lagos. In November 1965, he was made acting chief of signals of the army, while his paternal uncle, Inuwa Wada, had recently been appointed defense minister. 3 years later, Mohammed was appointed Federal Commissioner for Communications in Lagos. As a conservative and federalist, Mohammed regretted the overthrow of the First Republic and the promulgation of Aguirre-Ronsi's Unification Decree of 1966. Please smash the like button and subscribe to this channel. It will go a long way to help us grow this channel. Thank you. Mohammed opposed JCU Aguirre-Ronsi's regime, which came to power following a coup d'etat on January 15, 1966. The coup was led largely by Christian Igbos from the south, in which several northern Nigerian leaders were assassinated in gruesome circumstances. As GOC of the Nigerian Army, Aguirre-Ronsi restored normalcy to the country by imprisoning the coup leaders and intimidating the federal cabinet into handing over the reins of power to him. However, many Northerners saw this and the reluctance of Ironsi to prosecute the coupists and the fact that the army was allegedly giving exceptional privileges to the coupists as an indication of Ironsi's support for the killings. As a result, Northern politicians and civil servants pushed Northern officers like Mohammed to avenge the coup. Northern soldiers at Abeokuta Barracks mutinied on the 9th of July 29, 1966, setting in motion the counter-coup that was still at planning stage at the time. Despite Mohammed's insistence in wanting the job of Supreme Commander for himself, the counter-coup resulted in the installation of Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon as Supreme Commander of the Nigerian Armed Forces. This happened because Gowon was his superior in the army, and Mohammed received little or no backing from the British and American advisors. He finally gave in. Gowon rewarded him by confirming his rank. He had previously been an acting lieutenant colonel and also confirmed his appointment as Inspector of Signals. During the Nigerian Civil War, Mohammed was the General Officer Commanding GOC of the Nigerian Army's 2nd Division. This division was in charge of driving the Biafran army out of the Midwestern region, as well as crossing the Niger River and joining the 1st Division, which was advancing south from Nsukka and Enugu. When his forces entered Asaba, Delta State during the Biafran War, it is documented that General Murtala Mohammed oversaw the cold-blooded killings of innocent residents in what is known today as Asaba Massacre. Mohammed's wartime disaster occurred shortly after, when he attempted to cross the Niger River to reach Biafra. Despite his superiors' advice at Army headquarters in Lagos that he should wait for the bridge to be rebuilt after it was blown off by fleeing Biafran forces, he insisted on a riverine crossing. He was defeated twice, but he remained steadfast in his purpose and eventually made it through on his 3rd attempt. Mohammed, fed up with Army headquarters reprimands, decided to resign his command and go on a long vacation in the United Kingdom, but not before threatening to resign his commission. His historic military feat during the war won him national acclaim and respect even from his adversaries. When he returned to the country after the Civil War, he was reinstated in his previous job of Army Signals Inspector. However, when the Gowon government's popularity waned as a result of excesses and corruption, certain army officers approached Brigadier Murtala Mohammed and 2 other wartime colleagues, claiming to be acting in the country's best interest. The true motivation for the coup, according to report, was discontent among military commanders who thought that despite their effort to win the war for Nigeria, their army colleagues who stayed at army headquarters away from the front lines were reaping the advantages in a corrupt environment. After deposing the Gowon regime, the coupists picked Mohammed, who had been increasingly popular, as a man who would lead. When General Gowon was ousted while attending Organization of African Unity (OAU) summit in Kampala, Uganda on July 30, 1975, Brigadier, later General Mohammed, was named as head of state. Brigadiers Obasanjo, later Lieutenant General Obasanjo, and T.Y. Danjuma, later Lieutenant General Danjuma, were appointed Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, and Chief of Army Staff, respectively. He introduced the expression "fellow Nigerians" and with immediate effect to the national language during the coup that brought him into power. Murtala Mohammed's initiative quickly gained widespread public support, and his decisiveness elevated him to the role of folk hero. One of his first measures was to cancel the 1973 census, which was skewed towards the north, and restore the 1963 census for official reasons. To break ties with the Gowon regime and restore popular trust in the central government, Murtala Mohammed purged prominent federal and state officials. More than 10,000 government employees and officials were fired without compensation due to age, health, incompetence, or other malpractices. Civil service, courts, police and armed forces, diplomatic services, public enterprises, and universities were all affected by the purge. Corruption charges were brought against some officials. He also started the process of demobilizing 100,000 personnel from the swollen ranks of the armed forces. Civilians were appointed to 12 of the 25 ministerial positions on the new Federal Executive Council, but the cabinet was subordinate to the Executive Supreme Military Council. Mohammed imposed federal government authority in areas that had previously been reserved for the states, limiting state governments and governors' ability to determine and implement policies. Newly appointed state military governors were not given seats on the Supreme Military Council, but were instead expected to carry out Mohammed's federal policies through the Military Council. The federal government took over the country's 2 largest newspapers, declared broadcasting a federal monopoly, and took control of the remaining state-run universities. Murtala Mohammed initiated a comprehensive review of the 3rd National Development Plan. Singling out inflation as the greatest danger to the economy, he was determined to reduce the money supply that had been swollen by government expenditures on public works. Mohammed also announced that his government would encourage the rapid expansion of the private sector into areas dominated by the public corporations. He reappraised foreign policy, stressed in Nigeria's first orientation in line with OPEC price guidelines that was to the disadvantage of other African countries. Nigeria became neutral rather than non-aligned in international affairs. The shift in orientation became apparent in respect to Angola. Nigeria had collaborated with the OAU to bring the warring factions in the former Portuguese colony to a negotiated reconciliation. But late in 1975, Murtala Mohammed announced Nigeria's support for the Soviet-backed Popular Movement for the Liberation of Angola, citing South Africa's armed intervention on the side of the rival National Union for the total independence of Angola. The realignment strained relations with the United States, which maintained that Cuban troops and Soviet advisors should be removed from Angola. In October of the same year, Nigerian Air Force took delivery of Soviet-built aircraft that had been ordered under the regime of Gowon. In the early hours of February 13, 1976, Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka of the Nigerian Army Physical Training Corps stepped out of his official apartment on McPherson Road, Ikoyi, with one goal in mind: the assassination of the then head of state, General Murtala Mohammed. On that same day, General Mohammed set off for work along his usual route on George Street. Shortly after 8 a.m., while his Mercedes-Benz car traveled slowly in the infamous Lagos traffic near the Federal Secretariat at Ikoyi in Lagos, a group of soldiers, members of an abortive coup led by Suka Dimka, emerged from an adjacent petrol station, ambushed the vehicle and assassinated Mohammed. His ADC, Lieutenant Akintunde Akinshewa, and driver were also killed in the process. After killing Mohammed, Dimka proceeded to make broadcasts at the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation studios. 2 days after Mohammed was assassinated, Dimka was declared wanted for treason and murder by military authorities. He was eventually caught at a checkpoint at Abakaliki on March 5, 1976 and brought back to Lagos the following day. The assassination was part of an attempted coup led by Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka. He was executed on 15 May 1976 at the Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison in Lagos by firing squad. He was succeeded by the Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters, Olusegun Obasanjo, who completed his plan of an orderly transfer to civil rule by handing over power to Shehu Shagari on October 1, 1979. Want to watch more videos like this? Subscribe to Bistory Media and press the bell icon next to it. We'll bring you more videos on the forgotten history of Nigeria and important events around the African continent, the power, and things the world should know about Africa. Thanks for watching, and until my next video, please stay tuned and cheers.